right, everyone. Welcome back to the Command Your Brand Show. I'm your host, Josh Silvestro, brand ambassador of Command Your Brands. We help CEOs and founders to get their message out on top-rated podcasts. Grab our new book, rated the #1 PR book on Amazon, bestpodcastbook.com. A reminder before we get into today's conversation to comment on and like this video and smash the subscribe button if you want to take command of your brand to the power of podcasting. So in this episode, I actually have a really interesting guest speaker who I kind of want to talk about, because I think this is an interesting subject, especially this day and age where, we live in a world where, finance is like a very big button for people who want to kind of dive in more about money or, Bitcoin or anything of the like. And this guest speaker that I have, who's actually the CEO and founder of if you remind me, it's Arch Public. Thank you. He's also a father. He used to be a football player right in Texas. So I should introduce you guys to Tillman. So Tillman, thanks for joining the show, man.
I appreciate it, Josh. I'm glad to be here. I always love to be on podcasts and talk about things that are near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. So I guess what we'll first start off with is just for people, who want to get to know you better and just know who you are. Could you give us a little bit about yourself and like your background, like where you come from, and also why you started the company that you have today?
Yeah, sure. I graduated with honors from the University of Texas Business School, McCombs School of Business, and always wanted to be an entrepreneur because that's what my dad, I saw him do his entire life. He always was able to stay at home and take me to hockey practice and football practice and the likes. And that was always my aim, is to be near my family as much as possible. And trading was a big part of my life, even back into college. It was always something that I saw as a powerful outlet that you could do from anywhere and gave you that type of freedom. And luckily enough, I heard about Bitcoin really early on in about 2013. And I was intrigued with this notion that anyone that had electricity could participate in a new financial network that gave them bankability. And with, the world containing 8 billion plus people and more than half of them not being banked, that seemed like a pretty noble cause and a radical new solution to a lot of problems that we have in the financial market. So I kind of dove in head first at that point. And since then, I've been doing nothing but pursuing innovations, product developments, app developments, anything that help push that progress along and help contribute to the overall message of Bitcoin, which is, anyone can participate is the bottom line, and you don't need permission. You don't have to fill out any forms. It's as simple as literally picking the way in which you want to contribute to the network.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I'm actually kind of curious what I guess, because you transitioned from literally one area of life to like literally a 360 another area of life, which you went from sports to technology. So were there any lessons or like anything that you got from, your sporting or athletic career that like influenced your approach to leadership or the technology or the trading sectors?
Yeah, I think in sports, the most valuable lesson that you ultimately learn, especially when you get to a high level, is that you're going to play a lot of people that are better than you. And there's a lot of stiff competition, and everyone wants the same prize. And the amount of hard work that you put in is the prize. So your resilience to go out when you don't feel like it and play battered and bruised is the same resilience that it takes to start a company, because you're going to be battered and bruised. You're going to find hurdles and obstacles that are seemingly insurmountable at the time, but it just takes dedication and perseverance. And those characteristics, I think, are the characteristics that define good entrepreneurs and good founders. I think solving a problem that no one else has been able to solve is always a difficult challenge, and there's always multiple iterations to get to the finish line, right?
Yeah. It's so interesting too. I'm not a huge sports fan, but I love my parents, my family. They all love sports. They're all big sports guys. And what really attracted me to you is actually you went from just a total football player to like now a total tech nerd about the technology of crypto and Bitcoin. And it's funny too, is like, I like I'm not an older dude. I'm like literally 29 years old. And it's funny to me where it's like you look at Bitcoin and crypto, it's like I remember when it was starting to get big, and then it's sort of like there's always misconceptions about it. Do you find that there's always misconceptions about Bitcoin? Because there's always the good, the bad, like there's always something about it, like,
Yeah,
you
the
know what I mean?
central premise that I always take into those conversations is that there's a lot of loyalty towards what has made you the most amount of money.
Right.
You have native, loyalty just built in. If you were in Dogecoin and Doge made you a bunch of money, you'd be a Doge maxi, I promise. Bitcoin the same thing. And so what I like to teach people about is the core technology behind those coins and the central tenets that are the core values or characteristics of that blockchain specifically, and what that is applied to solve a problem as the single tool and or one of multiple tools that can solve that problem. And those types of technological iterations and capabilities and functionality are not as disruptive as AI, but they're close. Like
Yeah.
the inefficiencies in our payment systems at a core level, settlement should be instant, for example, or close to instant. That is one of the core tenets that is a problem that every blockchain is trying to solve. Some try to solve it in a different way in terms of the consensus mechanism that really drives those decisions and who gets to make them. Some of them aren't really trying to solve that problem. They're more of a logistic management chain, where in which the safety of the chain and the data being inputted on chain is rewarded based upon its accuracy by oracles or outside actors that have to gather real world data and then put it on chain. And they have to have a method to keep those actors honest. And blockchain does, it's a trustless, distant transaction. So think about that. There's very few things that allow you to transact in a trustless manner across large, geographical distances. So that's one of the other core tenets that blockchain solves. So I like to get into the nitty gritty because I fell in love with Bitcoin not because the price appreciation. I didn't even own any.
Yeah.
I fell in love because um, I saw inequities in our banking system, quite honestly. And the
Yeah.
inequities in the banking system all have to do with what net you take home. And if you are relying on payday loans to cash your work check every week, you are obviously in the class of workers that need financial assistance the most, and yet you're the most taken advantage of.
Right.
And so those inequities didn't make sense to me. I just thought, how could you kind of reverse that? And blockchain and Bitcoin specifically has done that. There's, tens and tens of millions of millionaires that are created out there and that were just normal people that decided to be early adopters. And so that is the true definition of a free market, in my opinion, is that you get rewarded equally across equal rule sets.
Right.
And, I tell people this all the time, and it's the truth. There's only three people that have Bitcoin: people who mined it, who worked for it, bought computers, paid for electricity, and participated in the transactional throughput and got paid in Bitcoin to do so. The person who bought Bitcoin from those miners or from someone along the chain who's bought it from the miners, because that's where they all originate from.
Yeah.
Or the third are people who stole it, bad actors. Those are the only three people that exist on chain, right? You can't say that about fiat. You can't say that about any other blockchain other than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was fair and equitably distributed based upon work that was done. And, any of the other coins, they may solve better problems than Bitcoin can solve. For example, Bitcoin, it's it's written into the code to return to the mean of 10-minute transactional times. So you don't want to wait to buy a candy bar for 10 minutes at the register at a ball game when there's 100 people behind you and everybody's trying to get back to their seats, right? So Bitcoin's not really built for that type of a purpose. There are chains that can handle that transaction almost instantly, as fast as the Visa network can, that reduce the cost of the network to basically nothing, would be good for the consumer, would be good for the merchant, would be good for everybody, right? More money stays at home. But those aren't as secure as Bitcoin. You're sacrificing security or safety because you don't really need to be that secure against a Snickers bar, right? And those transactions are settled almost daily in terms of getting those deposited into banks, because merchants that are buying goods, they don't keep the crypto in crypto. They immediately, take it into stable coin and immediately then transfer it to their bank account so they can buy more Snicker bars and sell more goods, right? So
Right.
that might be too long of an answer, but that's
It's a detailed answer, that's for sure. And I And I guess one question I have, because, a lot of people, I think, want to get involved in blockchain and Bitcoin, but I think they're too afraid of what happens to it. And I think there's a lot of mistakes people make with it. I think they just go, oh, let's invest in Bitcoin. Let's do all this blockchain stuff. And then they just kind of fall on their face. Like, what do you find is the secret to actually handling and using blockchain and Bitcoin?
Yeah, that has been, you just touched on kind of the major tenet of our business, which
Yeah.
is making it simple and approachable for anyone. And that's not been easy. Blockchain, there's a lot of ways to interact with it. And some of the ways are very complicated. Some of them require technical knowledge. Some of them require you making a lot of mistakes, quite frankly, just to learn, because there are no really in-depth, detailed, instruction manuals to a lot of the things that you do on chain. The beauty of the society that we live in is we want to productize everything. So companies like BlackRock, run by Larry Fink, largest asset manager on the face of the earth, $20 trillion under management. They have an ETF that they launched that is a 1-for-1 Bitcoin match. So if you want to engage in the most traditional sense, you have a product now that you can engage with that. So we have a product that is an algorithm that accumulates for you in an intelligent way. When there's dips, it will buy, and when there's big spikes, it will sell. And it will do that to the degree that you want to accumulate or offload your position. That makes it incredibly easy because you set it up one time, and then the results that you want when you're sober-minded and non-emotional and the price isn't swinging all over the place,
Yeah.
that is the results that you're going to get at the end of that journey. So if you're saying to yourself, you know what, I want to get some Bitcoin, but how do I buy it? When do I buy it? Well, dollar cost averaging and in buying on the dips and buying intelligently it sounds boring, but the more disciplined you are in that manner, the better the outcome if Bitcoin continues to do what it's done over the last 16 years. Because the game is accumulating constantly and getting as steady of a curve as it pertains to your price as you can get exposure to, because that will smooth out the volatility that has traditionally been in the Bitcoin price swings. It hasn't been as volatile this cycle, and it will continue to get less and less volatile as Wall Street puts lots of dollars and corporations add Bitcoin to their balance sheet, which is kind of who we're trying to help. But our software works all the way for institutions, sovereign funds, all the way down to the retail person that just wants something that's sophisticated, that's watching the markets on their behalf and acting on their behalf based upon the goals that they want to achieve.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. Like I'm so curious, like how more in depth of like how this works, because it's like, I noticed, especially in the past, I'm going to say 5 years, just even the 5 years alone, you just see a lot of things changing and evolving in terms of the financial industry and just the traditional finance and crypto and how that's kind of all kind of coming together. Like, what is your take on just the whole evolution of these, financial markets and just how crypto is kind of merging together with all this stuff?
Well, I think it's all good. I am one of those proponents of innovation first. And the reason why is because it takes that type of aggressive mentality to drive the innovative ball down the field. And then you regulate once you have innovated. And so we're at a place where the crypto industry is finding its true footing on the regulation that's going to be coming out very soon. And it's going to allow the speed at which we can progress the markets and build on to be, quite frankly, parabolic in my estimation. I think there will be a race to own Bitcoin from a corporation's perspective because it does things that no other lever or button on the financial dashboard of life allow you to do. It's, by Larry Fink's words, the best anti-inflation fiat hedge that you can make because it's globally traded. It's essentially a hedge against the entire fiat system, not just one in particular country. And so that has a unique functionality inside of high net worth corporations. Number two is that if you add it to your balance sheet and you're publicly traded, it does two things for you. It attracts top line growth from people who want to participate in owning a stock that has exposure to Bitcoin. We've seen that with MicroStrategies, but we've also seen it across the board with mining stocks. Anybody, any company that's holding Bitcoin and Bitcoin's price goes up, there's this natural multiplier as it pertains to the share price that you get to ride. And so that's an attractive mechanism from a risk exposure perspective, and you get a lot of bang for your buck if you're right. And so that's another line of products that have already been created and that are going to continue to grow. But if you're one of those companies that have added Bitcoin, even if it's a small amount, it's a defense against short traders against your stock because short traders don't want that parabolic exposure when they can go short something that doesn't have it. And so it's a natural defense mechanism. So it plays this vital role in corporations that are public and non-public that add a differentiator to their bottom line as long as Bitcoin continues to, produce the way it has over as long of a period of time as it has, 16 plus years of average of 40+% return per year. And then, you do have to be cognizant of the fact that, most of that movement happens in very short spurts. So it's one of those buy and hold type asset classes that has unique properties that no other asset class has been able to match to date. And that's, I think, why we continue to see the number of wallets created on chain growing and the number of dollars deposited in Bitcoin growing on those wallets. So
Yeah, that's amazing. I just see the work that I can just tell you've done so much work on this area. Like you just really studied really hard and just really you just know your stuff. And I think it's important too. Like when we are on this podcast, is that we educate other people really on how to actually do it and make it right. And I know for you, you've actually learned just by experience of how to actually do all these things. So I guess for people who want to start trading or they want to start like doing the right things but they don't want to make the what do you suggest people should focus on first to try to avoid the pitfalls or the mistakes that you've made over time? What do you think people should do with that?
yeah, so it starts with who holds your Bitcoin. That's kind of the central question that has to be answered. And there are ways in which you can hold your own Bitcoin and be your bank. I would not recommend those. That's where I'd say 80% of the folly takes place and the errors take place. It's a great feature of Bitcoin. It will never be removed. You can always hold a fraction of your stack in what they call self-custody. If you want to do research on that, I would suggest you can reach out to us and we'll give you a lot of resources to reach, to go and read and to watch videos on it. And we'll give you our knowledge base as it pertains to the errors that we've made. We've made a lot, me personally as well. And so you have to find a trusted custodian of your Bitcoin. So if you want to own Bitcoin through the ETFs, you will go through your traditional broker. Whoever your brokerage house is now, you can look at the ETFs that they offer, and there will be a Bitcoin ETF offered by either BlackRock or one of the big firms. Fidelity has one, and you can pick which one you want. They're roughly the same. There's a few incentives by a couple of firms out there that are trying to no fees for the first year and things like that. So, but you're not going to make a mistake in any of the ones that you choose if that's the way you want to hold it. There are some pros about holding it that way. You don't have to worry about losing anything. You don't have to worry. You log into your same brokerage account and you withdraw and sell in it. And it's you can borrow against it. So there's leverage functionality to owning those, just like there would be to owning the equities, right? The other way that our technology helps you do is a custodian like Gemini. Gemini is a broker dealer for crypto. So they're the Fidelity equivalent for owning all the cryptocurrencies that you would ever want to own. So they do a lot of due diligence as it pertains to which tokens are legitimate and which ones have a community behind them and which ones have, and they offer a wide plethora of different crypto assets, Bitcoin obviously being the king of that. And our software helps you accumulate all of those assets in a very smart way. So if you're a big Solana fan and you want to have an automatic method by which you accumulate Solana and you arbitrage Solana and you sell Solana, this is as sophisticated of a tool that's made it simple for people to use as I know exists. And we built it selfishly for the functionality that we would desire in a tool based upon our experience in the market. So it's something that we encourage people to at least try. We've made it available for free for 3 months so that people can get in and play with it and call us and schedule times where we can show you all the feature sets and the functionality. But if you have ever had the thought, golly, I wish I had bought Bitcoin when I had heard about it on this day. This tool is built to have no regrets. It's like, if you want to own a Bitcoin by 3 years from now, you can literally try on as many different purchasing schedules, or what we call instances, as you desire, to see what the impact from a cash contribution would look like on your your savings account. And it would also show you what the projections would look like in terms of historical values and if they continue to go what they. So it's a very powerful tool to incentivize you to say, okay, this should be a priority because I've thought about it right now. Let me put in 30 minutes of effort to set up some instances that then I can check a year from now and be really happy that I've reached my goal and I don't have those kind of regretful moments that we've all had in the industry.
Yeah. I guess for you, because I feel like you're you're kind of like a little girl with a Barbie doll when she sees a Barbie doll. Like, you're like, oh my God, I got to have it. But you're for blockchains and for crypto. What are you most excited about in terms of the breakthroughs and things that are happening with blockchain and crypto technology? And what do you think it'll have in terms of the greatest impact on everyday people?
Well, let me start with the worst thing that. Let me show you how even the worst negative is still a net positive for humankind, okay?
Yeah.
Donald Trump launched a Trump token, a meme coin of himself, three days before his inauguration.
Yeah.
And it went to $30 billion market cap.
Wow.
It's not worth 30 billion. 86% to 91% of the supply is held by the top 10 holders, which are his foundation, so it's been an incredible tool to show and highlight how much money can be aggregated by normal people. So in past times, IPOs were invite only. If you wanted to get in on Tesla pre-IPO, You got a phone call from somebody and said, "Hey, you're really wealthy and we want a bunch of your money. You want to buy a really big block at the Costco of equity purchases, and you're getting these wholesale discounts pre-IPO, and you have lockup agreements and you have these things that you have to agree to, but it's not for everybody, and it never was. Again, access is what technology is meant to widen and deepen. And so when you talk about, even as cheesy and as much as I disagree with the money grab meme coin industry, that happens in our current day and age in the form of pink sheet stocks, in the form of lottery tickets, in the form of casinos, and their odds are definitely worse in those than in this arena. So you can say that it's a bad thing that he did that. You can say it's not moral. You can say all the things that, are up to personal choice based upon the consequences of life. And so I wouldn't have done it. But that's not to say that it's not a net positive for the industry. Ultimately, would you rather have the contributions made towards politicians put on a public blockchain that we can analyze and do like incredible deep dives into where all the funds came from? Or would you rather it be funneled through super PACs where you have no idea what's being paid to who, and it's all kind of under this hidden cloak, right? And so even though the way it was executed wasn't the way I would have done it, moving the ball this direction is good for everyone. And so that's like the worst to the best that I can show you. But there's a bunch of things that are much higher priority, like Nostro Vostro accounts, for example. That's money that's being held in escrow in between international banks that charge a large premium to people that want to send money from USA to country X, and it takes 5 days.
Wow.
And so, it's not good for the consumer. It's really good for the banks. But even the banks, because of how the delta of efficiency change and the delta of volume throughput change that the new technology would give them, even they're now going, there's better ways to settle. We don't need 5-day settlements, and we don't need to send it, via the telegraph where it's Morse code over we've got better ways to settle payments is the point. And so blockchain does that in spades. Tether, USDC, all of the stable coins are, some of them are treasury bill backed and have billions and billions of dollar-backed goods behind their stability. And they're a digital, dollar, essentially. They function in that way, minus a tenth of a point or a hundredth of a point. Whereas if you go then to the other network, you're getting charged between 8 and 12% before the end of the day for international transfers.
It's funny. This makes me wonder. I mean, you probably have a guess of what actually is going to happen, but where do you see crypto markets and just the whole crypto area goes in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, what do you think will happen?
It's pretty clear. I can tell you the more science fiction stuff, but let's just stick to what the smartest people in the room have said. Larry Fink is the expert on all financial matters, and he says that they're going to tokenize real world assets. So every asset that you own, your car title, instead of it being a piece of paper that you've got to hold in some file box somewhere, it'll be a tokenized asset. And that title will be a token that can be sent very easily and remove all the friction and the paperwork that right now, in order to get a license plate, you have to take a bunch of paper into a government building and go, please look at all these paperwork, and all that can be forged. There's tons of fraud in that process. Right. All that can be eliminated. So real world assets coming on chain is going to happen, and it's going to happen, I think, in inequities first. I think that the stock market that BlackRock and Citadel and some other big time players have gotten together and said that they're building in Texas is going to be the central hub to tokenize anything and everything that you want to tokenize. And what's exciting about that is that just the innovation of tokenizing those assets and freeing up those assets to be tradable, um, it removes so much friction from the financial network. Just the efficiency delta that we'll accomplish in that alone will be massive. Everything will be digitized and everything will be peer to peer and everything will be instantly settled, and there will be no more fraud on your credit card. Those days are over as soon as this switch is flipped. And so, blockchain is immutable. It's decentralized to some degree, depending upon what chain. Like that's not all created equal. Some blockchains more closely resemble a traditional database than anything else, but it's a lot more efficient. It's like having an AI operator on the traditional database. It has built-in instructions that do things that humans used to have to do. So that, coupled with the AI race that we now are very aware of, based upon Davos and what was said there. Did you catch the interview with the gentleman that said that China has way more NVIDIA
Yeah.
chips? Yeah. So, that's going to be the new race of the future, is computing power. And it's not only computing power for innovating blockchain, but innovating then AI that will then run blockchain for us. So the ramps are going to get easier. The products are going to get more plentiful. And you're going to get to participate. Like right now, I gave the analogy on a podcast yesterday that right now, the crypto space, have you ever crossed the Nevada line and stopped at a gas station like 2 miles over?
Sure.
The 3 slot machines that are in the corner that are all,
Of
degenerate
course.
slot machines from 30 years ago. That's
Yeah.
where the crypto market is now. And
Yeah.
we haven't even seen what Vegas looks like. Like Vegas is going to blow everybody's mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we have a lot to see in front of us. And I think that's why Trump's made it kind of front and center in saying the USA is going to be the capital of both AI and crypto. And I think that's a pretty, it's going to take a lot of money, and it's going to take a lot of our American innovation and ingenuity. And there's plenty of help worldwide, but we understand capitalism at a way that few countries do. And the efficiency deltas that these technologies bring to corporations is just off the charts. I mean, it'll blow your mind.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I can't wait for that future, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure you are too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's great. So I guess one thing I would like to ask before we wrap up here is I'd love to hear some like stories that you've helped people with your company and just what you do, because I know you love what you do and you're so passionate about it. Could you give us an example of some, or like a time you've helped really someone in what you do and how you've helped them?
Yeah, sure. It goes back 3 years, but the most recent time frame, I think, is the best example, because fear and greed are the driving forces of all markets. And it's really, really hard to buy Bitcoin when it's gone up, by 100% in the last 3 months. And
Mm.
so there's this fear of it going down. But then when it cracks 100K and it goes to 107K, there's this greed of, well, Larry Fink said it could go to 700K. I could still like still a 7x from here. And so that greed, and so we're in this space that is ruled by emotions. And
Mm.
and so I give it the same analogy and example to working out in the morning. If you let your emotions dictate whether you work out, you're not going to ever work out. And therefore, you will not get the results that you want to get.
Right.
If you let emotions dictate when you accumulate Bitcoin or when you are buying or selling your stack, you are not doing it with a clear head, and you are not going to get the results that you want to get. You're letting emotions do the work. So
Right.
our system removes that. And it literally, if Bitcoin keeps producing the way that it's producing, it's almost a can't fail, because it doesn't care if you give it the capital to execute against the strategy that you put in place. You're going to get the exact results that that strategy dictates, because it's not going to care where the price is. It's going to execute based upon the math. And if the math that you programmed into it is triggered, then the event will be triggered and the instance will fire and you will accumulate. So there's ways in which you can use this technology to accumulate cash positions by trading in and out of Bitcoin during trending periods.
Yeah.
And then let's just say you take a trade during that period and the trade goes against you. Well, you just don't sell that position and you put it into your long-term stack. And that's how you accumulate over the same time period. So the winners get cashed out and the losers you accumulate. And so you can determine how quickly you're accumulating versus how quickly you're cashing out based upon what the conditions you're in. So it makes it very, very simple. There's about 3 different numbers to adjust, and everything else, kind of falls in place.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time you kind of given me just to kind of ask questions about this stuff, because I know some people may have a lot of information about it. Some people may not have a lot of it. And, I'm probably guilty of not knowing a whole bunch, but I would love to learn more. And I think you've really educated even just myself on those areas of, blockchain and crypto and how that works. I really appreciate the time and answering the question, and just even just spending 30 to 40 minutes with us, just like asking these questions. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I love talking about this stuff, as you can probably tell. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
that if you want to reach out to us, anybody of the listeners want to reach out, we love talking about it, and we'll spend time talking to you about it on the telephone, or even jump on a Zoom call and show you the product and give you a demonstration.
Awesome. So I guess before we end off here, so I love for people to know where they can reach out to you. And if I remember right, you actually have a free gift, if I remember right.
We
Um,
do,
okay.
archpublic.com.
Mhm.
And if you click on the Bitcoin algo and you sign up, you get it for 3 months for no cost. And it's a way for you to try all the feature sets, to call us, to have us walk you through the feature sets, show you how to achieve exactly what you want to set out to achieve. And then you can run it without having any money in there and see the trial fires that would have happened. And then when you're comfortable, you can fund a Gemini account. That's your custodian. We don't hold any funds. We don't know any trades. We don't have any trading functionality for you. This is all user driven. You'll be in charge of every aspect of it. And we'd love to kind of show you that functionality firsthand so that you can see it. Seeing is
Awesome.
believing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Thank you so much for joining us. And I thank obviously everyone here for listening to this stuff. And again, if you guys like this stuff, please like and subscribe. And if you want to hear more of Tillman, he's going to be on more shows and you'll definitely see him around. And Tillman, it was definitely an honor for you to be on my show. And I love talking to you, man.
Thanks, Josh. You too.